Have you ever been in a relationship that just feels off? Like you're following some kind of hidden script where the rules are always changing and you're just left feeling confused and totally drained? Well, it turns out you're probably not imagining it. Our source for today's explainer lays out how some of the most toxic relationships actually follow a very predictable and very damaging pattern. So let's open up this playbook and see exactly how it works.
And wow, this quote really just hits it, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of what makes these relationships so uniquely damaging. It's this total lack of closure. I mean, imagine a story with no last chapter, or a conversation that just hangs up mid-sentence. You're left in this permanent state of, well, uncertainty. That feeling of being suspended, not safe on the ground, but definitely not free either, that is the signature of the entire experience we're going to break down.
So, where does this playbook even start? Right here, with the art of confusion. These are really subtle communication tactics, and they are designed specifically to destabilize you, to make you second-guess your own reality and just feel completely insignificant. And before we get into the nitty-gritty, I just want you to sit with this question for a second. Because, as our source lays out, sometimes just seeing these tactics named and explained can be a total light bulb moment. A sudden and, sometimes really difficult moment of clarity. Okay, so what's wild about this is how simple these tactics are, but how effective. First up, we've got the unclear mumble. Our source describes this as them talking just loud enough for you to hear that they're talking, but not what they're saying. It's kind of like they're just thinking out loud. And of course, when you ask, "What was that?" you get crickets. Silence. The message couldn't be clearer. You're not even worth the energy it takes to repeat a sentence. And then there's this second tactic, rapid-fire questions. Picture this. You get hit with like 3 questions in a row, all about the same thing, but with totally different tones. They're not looking for answers. The whole point is to disorient you, to mock you, and to throw you completely off your game.
All right, so let's see how this playbook starts to escalate, because it does. We're moving on from the subtle art of confusion to some much more obvious weapons of manipulation. The goal here is pretty straightforward. Gain complete emotional control and, just as important, cut you off from anyone and everyone who supports you.
Our source material shares this really powerful proverb, and man, it is a serious warning. In this kind of dynamic, your vulnerability, it's not seen as something to be cherished. Oh no, it's seen as a weakness to be exploited. Every secret you share, every moment you confide in them, it's all just being filed away, like ammunition, to be used against you down the road.
So the key thing to get here is that they totally rewrite the rule book for a normal relationship, and every new rule benefits them. This slide's got a few examples. So, Rule 1, their feelings are the only ones that matter. You have to give them sympathy, even when they're the one causing all the pain. Rule 2, your world has to shrink until it's just them. They will actively work to push everyone else out. Rule 3, and this one is just chilling, you're made to feel grateful for your own safety, as if not being physically hurt is some kind of generous gift. And finally, they'll make sure you feel like a financial burden, openly sighing about the wealth squandered on your existence.
And this slide just shows you exactly how twisted that isolation tactic can get. The source uses this amazing term, spiritual family. And it's not about religion. It's about your people, the ones who share your passions, the ones who lift you up and make you feel energized. Well, to a narcissist, that group is a huge threat. So plan A is always to cut you off from them. But if that doesn't work, get ready for plan B, infiltration. They'll pretend to love what you love, they'll join the group, and then they will systematically poison it from the inside out until you feel like you have to leave the very community that used to be your lifeline.
And that brings us to a really, really critical concept in this whole playbook. Our source is crystal clear. This kind of abuse is almost never a single big explosive thing. Nah, it's way more like a slow-acting poison. It's a long-term strategy given in tiny, tiny doses, sometimes over many, many years.
And the source actually gives this strategy a name, and it is just chillingly accurate. Diluted doses of poison. I mean, just think about that for a second. When you deliver abuse in these tiny little bits, it becomes normal. It's so hard to even see the danger, let alone react to it, when the poison is just part of your day-to-day reality.
Now, here's an important piece of context our source provides. And this isn't about making excuses for the behavior, not at all, but it is about understanding where it comes from. Often, these actions aren't some cold, calculated master plan. They're actually highly reactive, and they stem from their own deep, deep trauma. Something you do in the present triggers a wound from their past, and they just lash out. So,
Inside this long game of slow poison, the source points out two main ways they attack. You can kind of think of it like a boxer. First, you've got successive blows. These are the quick jabs, right? The little psychological hits, over and over, designed to wear you down. And then, there's the decisive blow. That's the haymaker, the big knockout punch. It's one single, powerful attack that is designed to just completely break you.
But what happens if you don't break? What if, against all the odds, you actually manage to succeed? Oh, don't you worry. The playbook has a whole chapter for that too, and it is all about one thing: harvesting what they did not sow.
This quote just says everything, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the breathtaking hypocrisy of it all. I mean, after spending all that time and all that energy trying to tear you down, the second you find success, they pull this incredible pivot and start trying to take all the credit for building you up.
And their claim on your success? It comes with two demands that are absolutely non-negotiable. First, you have to give them the credit. You must acknowledge them publicly, privately, everywhere as the secret sauce, the real reason for your success. And second, you have to share the loot. The money, the status, the praise, they believe they are entitled to a piece of it. And just to be clear, this is not a polite request. It's an absolute demand.
And this brings us to the final and maybe the bleakest part of the playbook, the end game. This is where the cruelty often hits its absolute peak, and that signature feature we talked about at the very beginning, the total lack of closure, becomes just agonizingly clear. And here we are, right back where we started. This slide, it says everything you need to know about how this ends. There's no big final talk, no resolution, no peace. There's just this feeling of being left hanging. The story is never, ever allowed to have an ending.
So the source details this path to abandonment that is just breathtakingly cruel. It says that when you're at your absolute lowest, when you were the most vulnerable you could possibly be, the playbook calls for one of two moves. If you're facing a physical collapse or some deadly illness, they will actually go out of their way to make your situation worse. But if you reach a complete mental collapse, which is often a direct result of their abuse, you'll just be thrown away, completely and totally abandoned.
You know, it's the question everybody asks. Why on earth would anyone stay through all of this? And our source suggests the answer might be buried in our own pasts. That insistence on staying, on trying to fix something that just can't be fixed, it can often be rooted in our own childhood traumas, especially around abandonment. That history can create this kind of pathological attachment, this emotional glue that makes it feel almost physically impossible to walk away.
And so that leaves us with this final critical question. We've just walked through a playbook that's designed to never have a final page, to end in this deliberate open-ended limbo. The challenge, then, isn't just about learning the rules so you can survive the game. It's about something so much deeper. If the relationship is specifically designed to never end, how do you find the strength, and maybe even the permission, to write your own ending and finally begin to heal?